Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into some truly powerful, life-changing stuff. We're looking at Eric Greitens' incredible book, Resilience, Hard-Won Wisdom for Living a Better Life. This one is all about overcoming hardship, and honestly, it's packed with insights we all need. So, let's just jump right into it. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever just been completely knocked down by life? You know that feeling, right? You're sitting there wondering how on earth you're supposed to pick up the pieces and just keep going. Well, look, struggle is a totally unavoidable part of the human experience. We literally all face it, whether it's losing a job out of nowhere, a really painful breakup, a scary health diagnosis, or honestly just feeling totally crushed under the weight of everyday life. The real question we're tackling today isn't how to magically avoid all that pain. That's impossible. Instead, it's about how we can actually take that pain and forge it into strength when everything around us feels like it's completely falling apart. So the wisdom we're unpacking today actually started as a series of real, incredibly raw letters. They were written by former Navy SEAL Eric Greitens to his good friend Zach Walker. Now, Zach was a highly decorated veteran, but when he transitioned back to civilian life, it was rough. He found himself battling severe PTSD, alcoholism, and this massive, devastating loss of purpose. And what's amazing here is that Greitens didn't just give his buddies some cheap sympathy or, empty feel-good bumper sticker slogans. No way. He offered hard-won wisdom, stuff forged in the absolute trenches of combat, humanitarian work, and ancient philosophy, all just to help his friend rebuild his life. Okay, so first things first. We really need to redefine a word that gets thrown around all the time: resilience. A lot of us tend to picture a resilient person as this stoic, unfeeling rock, someone who just passively takes a beating without shedding a tear. But that's all wrong. Resilience is not an unfeeling shield. It's a muscle, an active muscle. Think about how a broken bone heals. When it heals properly, it actually grows stronger at the exact spot where it fractured. It's the same with us. Resilient people still feel terrible grief, fear, and heartbreak. Of course they do. But resilience is the bridge. It's the ability to absorb that massive impact, adapt, and eventually recover your purpose, so you can actually become who you're meant to be because of the crisis, not just in spite of it. Now, when life gives you a gut punch, it is so easy and natural, really, to slip right into the victim mindset. You start asking, what is life going to do to me next? But this mindset, it's completely toxic. Falling into that pity trap literally paralyzes your agency. You're just surrendering your power, waiting around to be rescued. The total opposite of this is the warrior mindset, which simply asks, okay, what action must I take right now? Adopting this warrior identity means taking absolute 100% personal responsibility. It's looking reality in the eye and saying, look, I can't control this terrible thing that just happened, but I totally own how I choose to respond. And we should be really clear here, living a resilient life definitely doesn't mean living a pain-free life. Pain is just an inevitable, natural signal of loss. It's going to knock on everyone's door at some point. But suffering, well, suffering is a completely different beast. Suffering is that secondary mental anguish that we actually create ourselves. It's totally self-inflicted. It pops up when we fight against reality, when we complain endlessly, or when we paralyze ourselves worrying about the future. You can't always dodge pain, that's just life. But you absolutely have the power to stop that pain from mutating into destructive, long-term suffering.
So, why is it that some people can survive the most horrific hardships imaginable, while others just kind of break under much lighter burdens? It all boils down to one word: purpose. The famous psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who literally forged his own wisdom surviving the Holocaust, championed this exact idea right alongside the philosopher Nietzsche. He said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." That is so powerful. And for Zach Walker, going back to his story, his deepest crisis wasn't just the trauma from the war. It was the complete and utter loss of his military mission. He lost his why. In the military, he had a crucial life-or-death role. But in civilian life, he felt totally useless and adrift.
Building right on that idea of a why, we arrive at the actual cure, which is prioritizing purpose over comfort. Greitens told Zach something really profound. He basically said that true happiness and real, lasting healing, they don't come from passive comfort. You aren't going to heal by just avoiding effort, sitting on the couch, and hiding from the world. True healing requires you to look entirely outside of yourself. If you want to overcome deep personal suffering, you have to find a noble purpose and pour your energy into serving others. You have to find a way to be useful to the people around you. It's exactly that external focus that actively pulls you right out of the darkness.
I know what you're thinking, though. How do we actually start doing all of that when we just feel terrible? Well, we have to realize something crucial. Waiting until we feel motivated or feel confident before we try to improve our lives is a massive, massive trap. Seriously, feelings follow actions. Action has to come first. If you sit around waiting until you feel like doing something difficult, you might literally end up waiting forever. You have to take action regardless of how crummy you feel in the present moment, because action and action alone is the only thing that actually creates momentum.
And hey, taking action doesn't mean you need to solve your entire life in one Tuesday afternoon. That's way too overwhelming. It just means making small, actionable micro-choices. Things like cleaning up your living space, going for a quick walk outside, taking the time to cook yourself a healthy meal, or just reaching out to a friend. When your life feels like it is an absolute chaos, just doing simple, physical movements and practical tasks helps restore your sense of control. These tiny, daily victories, they gradually reshape your whole emotional state, working from the outside in.
But how do we actually maintain that momentum when the next big storm inevitably hits? There's a fundamental military insight that fits this perfectly. You do not rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training. Think about that. If you haven't put in the work to build strong habits of self-discipline during the calm, peaceful seasons of your life, you are really going to struggle to keep it together when things get chaotic. Discipline has to be forged in the quiet moments. Why? Because that is exactly what will save your life during the chaotic ones.
So what does that training actually look like for us in civilian life? Well, it looks like waking up early. It looks like exercising regularly, keeping the commitments you make, even just controlling your speech and what you say to people. Now, I know these might sound like mundane everyday chores, but trust me, they are so much more than that. By prioritizing your long-term goals over short-term impulses every single day, you're secretly building this massive internal reservoir of mental toughness. So when a major crisis inevitably drops out of the sky, these established habits act like a heavy emotional anchor, holding you completely steady when the whole world is turning upside down.
Here's the thing, though. You have to remember that resilience is absolutely not a solo journey. Nobody, and I mean nobody, survives deep hardship completely on their own. And we need to recognize the vital difference between shallow friends and real friends. Shallow friends, they're great. They're pleasant distractions for the good times. But real friends, they are the ones who hold your feet to the fire. They're the tribe that will look you in the eye and speak hard, uncomfortable truths to you when you're messing up. And they're the same people who will unconditionally support you when you're at rock bottom. You've got to actively build a circle of high-character mentors and true friends who challenge you to actually live up to your potential.
Now, as you push yourself to do all this, you will fail. It is 100% guaranteed. So we've got to change the narrative around failure right here, right now. If you view failure as your identity, like a mistake is somehow hard proof that you just aren't good enough, well, that leads straight to giving up. But a resilient mind views failure purely as feedback. It's just a set of clear instructions on what specific strategy or skill you need to tweak before you try again. Seriously, the only time failure actually becomes permanent is the moment you decide to quit. Otherwise, it's just fuel for the fire.
Okay, we have covered some really profound ground today. Let's distill all this hard-won wisdom into 5 practical steps you can start applying right away. Number 1, take absolute responsibility. Stop waiting for someone else to save you. Number 2, cultivate a clear purpose. Focus on serving others to pull yourself out of your own suffering. Number 3, build your character through those small daily habits. Remember, the feelings will follow the actions. Number 4, embrace discipline as your anchor during the calm days, so you're totally prepared for the storm. And finally, number 5, surround yourself with true friends who hold you accountable.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. The universe is going to guarantee unforeseen obstacles in plenty of heartbreak. That's a given. You really can't choose the hand you're dealt in life, but you always have total control over how you play that hand. So my question for you is this: are you going to let your struggles define you, or are you going to embrace the pain, take some purposeful action today, and actively build a life of true resilience? The choice is entirely yours. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.